Alright, now I'm back. Now I'm going to try this one more time because I'm just going to record it if it doesn't work. Alright. So, Micah Curtis does a Mind of Micah C. And this one takes on racism. And if you know anything about Micah Curtis from my many, many posts, you'll know he's pretty much a racist fuck. So let's see his thoughts on racism in video games, because this can be quite fun.
We sense a soul in search of answers.
So I have to say that it's kind of interesting that a lot of people suddenly, out of nowhere, want to start talking about race in video games. That there needs to be some sort of conversation. So let's go ahead and have one.
Suddenly, out of nowhere. Suddenly, out of nowhere. That echoes in my mind because, oh yeah, there was this little tiny little thing. Might have read the news. Maybe, just maybe read the news about it. Maybe you heard about Ferguson. Maybe you heard about I Can't Breathe, Black Lives Matter, and 100 different other stories that have taken place in the last year. Like, what do you mean suddenly? Suddenly people want to talk about race in video games. Suddenly people want to talk about race and everything because it's obviously we have a somewhat racist system going on. I mean, maybe that's why. But let's just go. I like that this is written, edited, and hosted by. Like, who adds hosted by? Let's just say, I mean, it's not even hosted on his channel. It's hosted on Tech Raptor right now, but maybe he has his own version up. I don't know. And the editing is laughable, and so is the writing, but we'll see that in a second.
You know, on occasion I see some pretty rare bouts of idiocy whenever it comes to the discussion of race in video games.
Rare bouts of idiocy. I don't know. I mean, you consider absolutely nothing as racist, so it probably really doesn't bother you too much.
Mostly because it seems to me that a lot of people love to take the context out of the situation.
Oh my god, my drinking game for this video is going to be every time he says context, I'm going to drink. I'm getting up to get 2 beers now because I'm going to need at least that much. I'll be right back, people. I'm going to drink my way through this. Hear that beer? Hear that pop? Every time he says context, I'm going to drink because I can't think of another way to go through this.
So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to point out a couple of different examples of people who have done this and then go from there in regards to their particular dumb statements. First, let's have a look at Arthur Geis, or whatever his name is, review of The Witcher 3. Now, I'm not a big Witcher fan, but I've been playing the third game recently, and I've really enjoyed my time with it, for those who are wondering. But, one thing I wanted to point out was the last paragraph of Arthur's review right before he discusses the wrap-up for The Witcher 3, which is, I'll be completely frank, just to spoil the article for those of you who don't want to read it, is completely and totally contradictory to what he was saying for the rest of the paragraphs that preceded that conclusion.
Okay, what he says here is contradictory. So he was saying the game wasn't racist until he said it was racist. Like, I don't know. I don't have the motivation to go look up this review because Mika hates it. So it's obviously has to be a decent review. And that looks like his mouse screws are right in the middle there of the guy's beard. Like, good job editing there.
So let's read. Also, while I did not by any means see every city, burg, and outpost in The Witcher 3's world in my 70-plus hours spent within it, I don't recall a single non-white humanoid anywhere, not in Skellige, Novigrad, Oxenfurt, or anywhere else. Once I realized this, I couldn't stop looking for any example of a person of color anywhere, and I never found it. Unless you count naked monster women sitting at the feet of a boss, like a slightly more awkward tribute to a Frank Frazetta painting. But they're in there somewhere. Okay, Arthur, little problem here, buddy. You see, The Witcher
And see, he does that little thing there where it's really fast at the end. I want to kind of see what he put in. That oh, here we go. Random thought: is Arthur calling a person of color it a Freudian slip? What? What? He said it as in it was. Let me go back here now. You're the one that Mika's the one that always says stuff gets taken out of context. But let's go back here a little bit. Let's see. Wait, where did he never found? I couldn't stop looking for any example of person of color anywhere, and I never found it. So he never found an example of a person of color anywhere. So, never found it unless you count. So this is already a run-on sentence. So this is how Mika would have liked this to be worded. Let's just go over this here, and why he's a shitty writer. Once I realized this, I couldn't stop looking for any example of a person of color anywhere, and I never found it. But instead of I never found it, he wants to say, and I never found a person of color anywhere. Unless you count naked monster women sitting at the feet of a boss, like a slightly more awkward tribute to a Frank Frazetta painting, but maybe they're in there somewhere. So, how is that, first off, how are you calling him out on, how is that a Freudian slip? On him calling,
somewhere. Okay.
how is calling, how is, context, I'm drinking. Because Mika takes everything out of fucking context. I'm spitting beer all over my keyboard.
Hey, Arthur, little problem here, buddy. You see, the Witcher series is supposed to be based in a fantasy version of medieval Europe. Medieval Europe was not exactly known for having people with different skin tones other than white up and walking around there. In fact,
Yes, it's a... Now, once again, Mika's own words. It's a fantasy medieval Europe. Fantasy medieval Europe. So you could have fucking elves running around because it's fantasy medieval Europe, but it's medieval Europe, so you can't have black people. That sounds about right there, Mika. You know, that sounds about right. I mean, it's not like the Poles would have traded with Muslims at all. You know, the Arabs at all. You know, it's not like there's stories about different courts putting a high rating into black slaves to add to prestige to the courts. None of these whatsoever. No, there were no black people in medieval Europe. That's it. I'm gonna stop this thing because it's driving me nuts. It's just recording, so I'm not streaming. And all I had to do was a quick all you have to do is a quick look. I mean, first off, if you're seeing all of medieval Europe and not Poland, Lithuania, which I believe is what The Witcher is actually based on, the Polish-Lithuanian lines, that area of Europe. But during different periods of medieval Europe, the Arabs and North Africans controlled large portions of Spain. So it's not like this crazy idea that there might be some black people. There was trade going on. There was a million different reasons. Now, I'm not saying you gotta see a black person in every single town, but as traders passing through, and so on and so forth, you know, Slavs, just, there's gonna be, it's not crazy to think, hey, why is there no black people in this game? It's not that far-fetched.
In fact, they were a severe rarity until much later in history. But, to be completely...
Severe rarity. Blacks in medieval Europe were a severe rarity. You know, let's play a game. Maps.google.com. Let's see, where do the... Now I'm just drinking because I can't take this. Oh, man, and this is going to take forever to load, isn't it? Nope, it's not. Okay. Let's go to, North Africa. North Africa, ladies. Okay. Good choice. Now, I'm not crazy, but they're kinda, if you're going, you know, oh, well, here's medieval Europe, this general area, oh shit, and here's Africa, right across the fucking water. It's not exactly a stretch to say, hey, maybe they traded, maybe people went back and forth between each, maybe the Berber pirates were kind of infamous, a million different things. And I'm going to get some history things wrong because my brain is damaged, but the idea, there's no black people. Okay, there's no black people in medieval Europe whatsoever. Alright, you're right, Mika. They're a rarity. I'm sorry. They're a rarity. So you're never going to see them in a video game. But a video game that's fantasy, so you can put elves in it and dwarfs, but black people's too far of a stretch.
Frank, I know that doesn't exactly fit Arthur's narrative, so I don't really expect him to even care about historical fact here. The next bit of discussion ended up coming from the PBS web series Game/Show, where Andrew Kornhaber decided to try to expose that Resident Evil 5 was inherently racist because Chris Redfield, who you could also, I guess, call Chris Deltoid for as big as his arms are, his act of shooting black people was inherently racist, despite the fact that he is defending himself in Africa from African zombies.
Yes, Chris Redfield is standing his ground. Obviously, there's nothing wrong here. There's nothing wrong here.
Okay. So, are we leaving out the context that...
Oh, fuck! Context. Gotta chug.
The African people in this particular scenario have been infested by a virus that takes over their minds, that this was forced on them by other people, and that the player character has no choice but to defend him or herself within that particular scenario. Not to mention the fact that if Chris Redfield was a racist, why wouldn't he turn to his right and shoot his partner in the head because she happens to be a black woman? You see,
the lightest...
one thing that's missing from...
The lightest skinned black person I'd ever seen. I thought she was Puerto Rican. I thought, what? Let's just say something here. Like, it's a video game. So there's no wires that say, there's no ropes, there's no ties that say, hey, we have to put a video game in Africa. There's a million different places you can put a video game. And plus, most of what I remember from my loose watchings of playing people play Resident Evil 5, the biggest problem with the racism is that you have these savage tribes who are like the 1950s stereotype of an African person in Africa. And that's where it starts to get just a tad bit racist.
Both of these particular statements by both of these particular not very bright individuals is the sub...
Why is Mika questioning somebody else's intelligence? Mika's a fucking moron. I mean, not just me saying that, but he went to one of those... The college he went to is one of those right-wing Catholic schools that don't technically... Like Bob Jones University or whatever it is. It's not like he comes from a place of very high prestige. And if you've read any of his writings, they're largely laughable. Like, there's no... I don't know. It's just, why is Mika his genius? Like, why is he... I mean, I have no college teaching, but I know I'm a smarter person than Mika. I know I'm a better person than Mika, just because I'm not racist. Because I'm not questioning why Resident Evil... I'm not making big statements about why Resident Evil isn't racist. Why? Because Resident Evil's probably fucking racist. And, hey, I can just not play Resident Evil 5, because it's not my type of game.
Objective context. You see...
Holy shit! That deserves a chug. The ironic thing here is that Mika will always talk about context, but when it's his arguments, and whenever you point out a flaw in what he's saying, pretty much, whenever you point out a flaw in what he's saying, you're just taking him out of context. Even if you quote everything he says, he'll just say, oh, that person took me out of context. That person took me out of context. And it loses all reason, because that's his argument, where everything. That's why I'm saying I can sit here and drink every time he says context. Because he says context all the fucking time, and it loses all point. Like, I could sit here and dig up the context for everything he's talking about, and discover, yeah, the context doesn't go any further than it does. I mean, what, like, he just says these words and they don't mean anything.
And I've pointed this out several times in past articles that I've written, is that context defines meaning.
Holy shit. He said context like 3 times.
Whenever you take something out of context, it's very easy to twist it to your own ideas and your own idiocies, to be completely and totally frank with you, as opposed to taking the situation for what it is. Arthur Geis, or Geese, or however you pronounce his name, is taking out the context of The Witcher 2 and its setting to try to guilt trip CD Projekt Red into possibly doing something in the future with more black people for the sake of doing it.
What? Wait, okay, so, because I'm losing track here. Arthur Geese. Is Arthur Geese even a black guy? Like, I'm curious now. Arthur Geese. Is he a black guy? Let's try video. That's probably not the same one. Video game reviewer. No! He's a white guy. He's a white guy, of course. So, yes, obviously Arthur Geese's plan here is not to point out something that he found interesting in that he couldn't find black people in The Witcher 3. No. His plan is obviously to push CD Projekt to include more black people in the next Witcher for... Yeah, that's question mark. My thought is a question mark because what is Arthur Geese's intention in somehow forcing the Witcher people to put more black people in the game? What's the end game here? There isn't any. It was a funny comment on something he noticed as he was playing the game. There's no, like, secret conspiracy of people to get more black people in games. Like, I don't know.
As opposed to, I don't know, them as artists making the game placed in the setting that they want to. The same can be said of this particular hipster glass wearing goofball for game show. The fact of the matter is that Chris Redfield and his attitude towards particular NPCs within the entire span of the Resident Evil series has not been one of anger towards people of color, but rather sympathy towards people in general who have been infected by these particular viruses. He does not want to kill them. The video game of Resident Evil 5 is about two members of an international group that are supposed to take down zombies, and yes, I'm being dead serious about that. If you've never played the games, check it out. The ridiculousness is amazing. Going around and doing their particular jobs at certain points of the world.
But, once again, the point I'm going to get to here. If Chris Redfield takes no joy in killing people, he's killing people who have a virus. There's something wrong with these people. Now, obviously, I haven't followed Resident Evil in years, I'm going to admit that. But, if you feel so strongly about not killing people, maybe you don't join the force that goes around and kills hundreds of thousands of zombies all the time. Like, maybe, just maybe, you scientifically heal and cure them. Maybe you find a cure to the disease. Not saying that's going to be a good video game, but I'm trying to make sense out of the logic of a video game character who doesn't want to kill zombies, doesn't want to have to kill zombies because people just with some sort of sickness, but he'll just go run around and slaughter them like sheep anyway. Like, I realize I haven't played Resident Evil 5, so it's probably a lot deeper, and I don't have any context. But this is my halfway way of looking at it.
It's a similar scenario to Resident Evil 4. My question is what would the argument have been if this was a black person shooting down a bunch of white people? Or would we even be having this particular discussion?
If it was a white person if it was a black person shooting out a bunch of white people, you'd probably be pretty fucking upset and called it racist, Mika. Like, what does it matter? Oh, because it's reverse racism that nobody ever picks up on. But, oh, the poor white man. Fuck you.
In fact, let's go to Grand Theft Auto 5. For a good chunk of the game, there are particular missions with Franklin, the one African-American character of the three main characters, where he is killing several white people. Why is this not seen as racist in the eyes of these particular people?
Oh, you know why it's not racist? Because you fucking kill all kinds of people in the Grand Theft Auto games. Maybe it's because some games people don't pick up as blatantly racist. But maybe if the white people in GTA 5 were dressed up like crazy caricatures of white people from the 50s, I don't know, maybe then they would be upset about it. What the hell? I mean, why? Because the fucking Rockstar makes better games that don't have to rely on racism. What do you want from me? That's why I'm sure people get upset about it. But in the end of the day, the problem is, oh wait, actually no, now I got the point. I got a point here. I'm getting to it. The point is that white people have set up an oppressive culture, which has put down minorities, which has put down immigrants, anybody who isn't white, a white male for that matter, because white females in general take a beating too. But you forget about if you're black and transgender or gay or something. I mean, oh my god. So, it's not offensive when you're playing a black character beating the crap out of a white guy, because it's a culture that consists of the exact opposite. There we go.
Well, it goes into this whole philosophy of something patriarchy, something classism, something ableism, something along those lines. Look, to be completely frank,
Something. I don't want to actually read about these things. I don't want to know why racism exists. I don't want to know why classism exists. I don't want to know about ableism. No, I'm just going to poo-poo it away. Shimmy, 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 shimmy away. Like, I mean, you ask these questions about why stuff is racist, and then you ignore the underlying reasons that they might be racist. So, God help me if you actually get shimmy, 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 shimmy. Okay, shimmy, shimmy off the stage.
frank with you, it's the complete and total nonsense that I discussed in my video entitled Foldable Terrorism. Whereas there's this idea that there are some skin colors, there are some people that just naturally have an advantage over others because of the way society is.
Yes, it's a white male society. You're making me want to rip out my hair. How do you not realize this as a white guy? Like, how do you not realize you have it better than every fucking buddy else? Well, I tell you why. Oh, no, I'm sorry, you lifted yourself up by your own bootstraps and got out of those tough points by yourself. There was no help from anybody else. Like, the stuff you have suffered from in your life is jack and shit compared to some things that people of color have to go through, that minorities have to go through, that gays had, lesbians, transgenders, everything you could think of had, compared to what you have. You've had jack and shit of struggles in your life. This is, oh my god, my fucking head. Like, you can't be this dumb. You can't. There's no way you can be this dumb. How can you not? Perfect example, I've used it before, I'll use it again. I went to a temporary labor agency for a job, and I looked as fucked up as I ever look. And more so. I had long hair because I couldn't afford a haircut at the time. And they give me all the paperwork, they have me fill it out, they interview me, and everything's fine. Now, while I'm in the interview, across the cubicle from me, there's somebody else being interviewed. And I couldn't see who it was, I couldn't see anything about them. But the absolute first question she asked when the guy sat down was, "Have you ever committed a felony? We don't hire any felons." Well, my interview ends, and she's like, "Oh, we'll let you hear back from us, da-da-da." I get up, I walk over, and I look over, and I see a black guy in an impeccable suit, in perfect perfect cornrows, like, everything's perfect about him. Like, if I looked like him, I'd probably be a CEO. And her first question to him, which they never asked me anything about my criminal history, was, "Are you a felon?" And that's, like, so many levels of racism. That's the exact problem of everything in this nation. First off is that, once you're a felon, you can't do shit for work. And overwhelmingly, a majority of felons are black, not because they commit more crimes, but because somehow, when white teens do it, it's just, oh, they're going to learn, they're going to grow up, they're going to get better. But when a black teen does it, they're a felon, and they're marked for the rest of their lives. But, you know, let me just let Micah continue on his story here.
Aside from it being completely and totally not true, what it really is veiled racism. It almost sounds like something out of Mein Kampf. The fact of the matter is that a lot of people have these particular ideas that honestly come across to me as someone who is a student of history.
If you were, first off, why did you read Mein Kampf? I've never sat there and gone, you know, I should really read Mein Kampf. I could learn a lot from this book. I mean, and you're obviously not a student of history because first off, you barely know where Africa is in relation to Africa and the Middle East is in comparison to Europe because there couldn't have been any black people in all of Europe. But let's just save that for a second. Why did you read Mein Kampf? Like, why? I've never read. I can't imagine a reason why you would have read Mein Kampf. It blows my mind.
As the same attitudes that you would hear from Dixiecrats or former President Lyndon B. Johnson. Things.
What? Dixie, I don't... I'm lost here for a second. Let me go back to 7 minutes. Maybe I can make sense.
The fact of the matter is that a lot of people have these particular ideas that, honestly, come across to me as someone who is a student of history as the same attitudes that you would hear from Dixiecrats or former President Lyndon B. Johnson. Things along those lines. These sorts of ideas that are honestly pro-segregation when you actually look at them.
Wait. So, Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act. Like, how is Lyndon B. Johnson pro-segregation? I mean, my history is a little bad, but I'm almost 100% sure that Lyndon B... You know what? Let's actually look this up. Wikipedia Civil Rights Act. Yeah, it was Lyndon B. Johnson. Because it was after the murder of... Because they didn't think they could get it through until Martin Luther King was murdered. Civil Rights Act. Like, I want to know what he could possibly be... Okay, Andrew Johnson... Voting... There we go. That's the 1964 one. Yeah, so it was Lyndon B. Johnson. Okay, so let's... Now, what ideas from the civil rights advocates are easily mistaken for the same ideas from Dixiecrats? That's what I want to know.
In fact, one thing I actually found kind of funny was when I was looking at my Twitter feed today, I saw a tweet from Feminist Frequency, Anita Sarkeesian.
Why does he follow Anita Sarkeesian? Oh, this. Now, I want to hear. Wait, I'm going to say my thoughts on this. But why is he? I don't follow Micah. I just look at his Twitter to laugh at it. Like, if somebody pisses me off, I don't follow them on Twitter. So he's actually helping her become more famous by following her. Like, why is it pop up in? I'd say, asshole, stop retweeting that shit if somebody's retweeting it.
Back in 2011, saying the following. I've actually read many studies that state the opposite, that gender-segregated classrooms improve learning. Same with race. Holy cow.
Let me get my 2 cents in here now. Saying that I've read many studies is not saying I support. These are two different things. I've read studies. Studies can say whatever. It doesn't mean I support them. I mean, I've read plenty of studies that I'm like, yeah, but I wouldn't do that in reality. That's why studies exist.
For those of you who don't know, I did research into Anita Sarkeesian and her boyfriend/writer for Feminist Frequency, Jonathan McIntosh, and found that McIntosh is a major anti-Semite.
My accusation, this is a good note. My accusation of Jonathan McIntosh being an anti-Semite is not an opinion shared by TechRaptor's staff. It's not an opinion shared by 90% of humans with a brain. The reason he calls Jonathan McIntosh an anti-Semite is because McIntosh is a supporter of SDS. SDD. Oh, fucking, he's basically, because he's shown solidarity with the boycott. It's the boycott Israel Israel boycott. Let me see. Israel boycott. Let me see. Boycotts BDS. So McIntosh has supported the BDS, and shockingly, people who Israel considers BDS, which is boycott, let me see, it's boycott something. But you may be shocked to find this out, but Israel considers BDS an anti-Semite movement. Because, for obviously political reasons. Okay, BDS means, let's see, boycotts, divestment, and sanctions against Israel until it complies with international law and Palestinian rights. So I guess that makes him an anti-Semite because that makes me an anti-Semite because I'm all for boycotting Israel because they mistreat the Palestinians and
Once again, I also want to thank Milo Yiannopoulos from Breitbart for publishing my findings and writing an article about it. And of course, I wrote an article myself about it on truthrevolt.org. And I kind of knew that this sort of thing was going on behind the scenes, but holy crap, I never noticed that. Look, the fact of the matter is that it doesn't really make sense for people to try to guilt these creators into the video game version of, let's face it, let's call it exactly what it is. These people are asking for digital affirmative action. Are you kidding me? Look, the only reason that these people even have a racism...
People ask, he's calling it digital affirmative action now. Digital affirmative action because, because to Micah, there's a white boy who might not get a step forward if a black boy is actually given a chance in the world. I mean, I've talked about affirmative action before. I'm all for it. I don't care. And I don't really picture this being affirmative action as much as the idea that a fucking fantasy game can be multicultural. Like, I don't know. You can have all sorts of craziness in fantasy games, but don't put those black people in my medieval European fantasy game because there weren't any black people in Europe.
Argument with these particular games is in complete and total disregard of the context of a video game.
Context? You said context. Let me finish my beer. Sure, the context of Resident Evil 5, which is with literally a whole globe. You have to pick Africa, and you have to have these African tribes who are contaminated by the virus too. But no. Clearly, clearly it's just the people who see it as racist out of the problem. They're the real racists.
When you discard context, you discard meaning, and you...
Wait, you said context again. I gotta open my other one. I'm down to one.
Twist it into whatever the heck you want it to be. These people, to be completely and totally frank with you, are lying to the general public to push a political agenda, and it's...
No, they're not lying to the general public. If you can't find black people in The Witcher 3, then you can't find black people in Witcher 3. You're not lying when you say that. You're not pushing... Why is Arthur Geis going to be pushing a political agenda? Did I miss a meeting somewhere? Were there meetings that said, hey, we're the really liberal left and god damn it, we have to put more black people in video games? No! And he's not even saying Witcher has to put more black people in video games. He's just saying, hey, this is something funny I found, and there's no black people in Witcher 3. Which is a fantasy game. So, you could have dwarfs and elves, and orcs, and once again, I've only played a little bit of any of the Witcher games. I don't think there's actually elves or dwarfs in it, but it's just a joke I'm going to continue with, so I just want to let people know that. So you can have dwarfs, elves, orcs, goblins, whatever the fuck you want. You can have talking foxes, but don't you dare put any kind of black people in the game because that'll be out of context.
Absolutely ridiculous. So here's what should be going on. How about we let artists create games that they want to create with the settings that they want to put them in, and we let them do it, and we don't play the ones we don't want to play, and then we play the ones that we want to play and see what happens. Like a free market. How's that work out for you?
Alright. So if you're racist, feel free to be racist, as long as you don't say you're racist. I think that's the general gist. As long as you pretend you're not racist. Just like, remember that rancher from Nevada? How everybody loved him and he was great, and then he said racist stuff, and suddenly nobody loved him anymore? Same idea. Be racist, but don't say you're being racist. And remember, don't make a joke that could be considered a joke about racism, because Mika will call you the real racist in realizing the racism. I believe. I can't believe he didn't finish with another context, though. Oh, I'm gonna post this and nobody's gonna give a shit. Is it still recording? Yes, it is. Okay. Stop recording.